Good morning, Wall Street winners. It is Friday, April the 12th, and it's about 20 minutes after 8 in the morning Eastern Time. And what we're seeing today is we've just gotten some announcements from JP Morgan Chase, Wells Fargo, and Citibank. So the first of the big three banks to report. All of the index futures, as you can see here, are in the red. About 0.2% for the Dow, 0.29 for the S&P, and 0.41 for the NASDAQ. So it looks like the tech stocks are taking the brunt of this and are looking to start the day off in a negative position. What is up this morning a fair bit is Brent crude and oil. It's up 1.26%. So very big concerns, or a lot of concerns being discussed and talked about in regards to Iran's retaliation over Israel's attack on their embassy in Syria. So that's pushing the price of crude up. So we'll see what the outcome of that is. If we go back to the Bloomberg first screen, JP Morgan shares, they do hit, or I think meet or exceed revenue expectations and earnings expectations, but they did miss on net interest income, which they call NII. And that's where the bank uses the money that it has on deposit and loans it out at a higher rate, but then has to pay the depositors a lower rate for that. So there's a spread obviously in that, and JP Morgan didn't quite get to where the market had estimated they were going to be, or where they estimated they were going to be. So there was some higher expense guidance there going forward from Jamie Dimon of JP Morgan, and when he comes out and chats, he's usually pretty vocal. He sends out an annual letter to shareholders, which is quite insightful. He's a very brilliant man and has done a great job in leading JP Morgan over the at least last 10, maybe 15 years. I'm not sure when he started, but he's been there quite a while, and he's definitely seen as an instrumental figure on Wall Street and at the banks. One of the success stories coming out of today is not Wells Fargo. So Wells Fargo has taken a hit pre-market because they saw an actual drop in net interest income. So they're, I guess, finding that there, according to this, is a drop as pressure from depositors mounts. So maybe they're having a hard time attracting depositors and then being able to use that money and leverage it and go back out and make some loans. But the real key success story today is from Citibank. And if we plug in Citi into our terminal here and take a look, Citibank is up this morning going into the open by about 1.5%. Jane Fraser, who's the CEO of Citibank, has done a pretty good job of turning this big ship around. She did a reorg earlier this year or late last year, maybe a combination of both, getting rid of some of the senior leadership team and laying off some staff that she felt were either redundant or not performing to expectations, and started to reorg things. She's still in the middle of this reorg, and yet she hit on every mark. So she hit on net interest income, she hit on in the investment business, the M&A business, and then she hit on some of the other elements as well. So that's showing some positive signs going forward for Citi. So today's going to be an interesting day. I think if you're looking at the market as a whole, I'm staying away from health and retail at this point. I'm going to stay away from transportation. I am interested in oil. I think oil is going to take it's going to move higher. You can already see in the pre-market that most of the oil stocks, with the exception right now of Kinder Morgan, which is just off 3 cents, are in the green. So I think that we're going to see over the next, I'm going to say week, because I think we're going to probably see something happen in the Middle East in terms of retaliation, which is what is putting pressure on crude and pushing up those futures. likely occur, sadly, due to that conflict, but that will bode well for oil. So I'm going to look at different opportunities in the oil. I'm, again, a huge fan of Valero. This has been a stock that started the year in the low 120s and has gone up to 185 so far. I think there's still some movement there. Another one that I was watching, which I think will actually operate opposite oil today and go down, is Con Ed. And this is a utility out of New York City and the boroughs. I think this could be an interesting opportunity. It's already down at 88.55. Took a big tumble in the last 5 days for no good reason. So on Tuesday, towards the end of the day, or Wednesday in the morning, I can't read the chart properly here, but at that point in the week, it just dropped, as you can see. So this fairly significant drop from, what was it? It was trailing upwards to the 191.13 range, and then it dropped all of a sudden way down to 88.79. This stock, if we look at the 1 month, goes up into the high 191s, maybe 192 range at some point, and then down into the 87s. So if this stock does work opposite oil today and drops down into the 87 range, I would certainly consider picking up some of that, because I do think that you'll be able to sell that at 89 or 90 in the coming couple of weeks, and that would be a tidy percentage profit. If we look at when they announce earnings, that's May 2nd, so I don't expect that they're going to announce bad earnings. I mean, they're a utility, it's always fairly consistent. Energy and electricity, all of the things that they sell and distribute are fairly consistent in terms of consumption. So I think that you're in good shape there. But I do like some of the other oils. I think that Exxon has some room to move forward. I think that if you look at Marathon Oil, it's been stuck in a range lately being the last 5 days, in that $29 range. It could hit $30. SLB, I'm going to stay away from at this point because I think it's near its peak. And then Halliburton's making some comebacks there, and at 41-ish, it's an attractive purchase. If we look at Halliburton here and we take a look at its price to earnings at 14, dividend of 1.66, earnings coming out on the 23rd. I think the earnings for all of these are going to be on track. They're not going to be as great as they were in the last 2 years when they were at all-time highs, but they're going to be very strong. So I think you're set up well there. And then tech, today's a great day to potentially buy tech when it's on sale. So if we look at some of your favorite, I'm not going to say my favorite, but if you have some favorites in here, one of the ones that I was into and then out of yesterday was CRM. I think CRM dropped down to, I want to say 296, 297. I bought some there and then sold it when it came up to 300. It closed below 300. So fortunately I got out at a bit of a peak, but if this dropped down into the mid 290s today, I would consider picking up some of that. PanW has been slowly coming back. If it hovers around this level or looks like it's going to make a continued trend upward, that may be an interesting play. I think net's a little pricey at 96, but if it came down to 92, I would definitely look at that. If we look at Microsoft, I think it's near its peak. I'm not going to do anything there. ARM's definitely above what I would pay for it at this point. AMD has done well yesterday. It's set to open lower. I do think NVIDIA is going to come back to the 180 range in the next week or so. So I would be watching that to see what it does today. Workday is a favorite of mine, and I do like it in the 260 range. It's up $4 pre-market. Let's see if that sticks. If it does, it could definitely go further than the $4, in my opinion. Meta is a huge favorite, but it's already kind of set up there at its all-time high. I might look at picking up some of this on a pullback, especially prior to earnings, because I expect those to be extremely strong and move it forward. I was in and out of NVIDIA yesterday and did fairly well. but as you can see, it went up $35. It's hard not to do well at that point. I'm not going to buy it in the 900 range. I'm going to wait for a pullback into the 800s. And then Google. Google's been climbing consistently. It's now at 160, close to 161. Looks like it might drop down to the 159 range. If we got into the mid to low 150s, I would definitely pick up some Google and hold on to that. I think it's going to continue to move forward. And then the financials, which we started to get reports on today. So we're seeing JP Morgan off 3% at open, almost $6. There could be an opportunity there. I mean, this is a strong company. It's not like it's not hitting estimates. M&A activity in the first quarter was stronger than we've seen in recent quarters, but certainly not where it's been at all-time highs. I think there's going to be continued strength in M&A, which should set up JP Morgan well. We had a surprise drop yesterday in Morgan Stanley. So this could be one. So apparently the Wall Street Journal came out or is coming out and saying that there are multiple SEC allegations being investigated by the SEC, the Security and Exchange Commission, around Morgan Stanley on hiding assets for wealthy individuals or helping them to evade taxes, something in that regard. This is something that happens every day. And I'm not talking about illegal activity, I'm just saying that wealth management operations at these large institutions are always working with tax lawyers and accounting firms to help optimize tax structures for wealthy individuals. It's not illegal. They're following the tax code usually. I mean, I'm not going to say always, but they're typically following the tax code. They're doing things according to the laws as they exist today to help people avoid and reduce their tax exposure, which just means that they're playing within the framework, the rules that have been set out for them. Now, if they've been doing things illegal, that's obviously bad. I don't believe that's going to be the case with a firm like Morgan Stanley. So I think there's a huge opportunity to buy them pre-earnings and probably get a little boost next week. They're 4 days out from earnings. Those are calendar days. So we're looking at earnings, I believe on, when is that coming up then? Earnings is on the 16th. So that's, I believe, the Tuesday. So this could be a huge opportunity to get them at a discounted price. It could pop back into the low to mid 90s and you'll have a pretty solid return, assuming that those allegations go away or can be resolved and proven to be untrue. Others that are setting up here, Goldman's pulling back. They announce next week as well. So they announce on Monday. If that comes down to the low 390s, there could be an opportunity there, especially on good earnings. And then I've been buying into some MTB in the 130s. I didn't like it in the 140s, but in the low to mid 130s, they also announced Monday morning pre-market. I think there's an opportunity here for these guys to do really well. So that's where we are today. Good luck with your trades. If you like these videos, subscribe, tell someone, share the video. It's all about sharing my knowledge and hoping to help you make more money in the market and become more educated and familiar with how to make trades. Good luck today, and we'll